Hello, welcome to this episode of A Creative Approach podcast. I'm your host, Karen Poirier-Brody. Lina Fat is today's guest, and she has inspiring stories for us. A true pioneer, like many amazing women chefs of Northern California, she came to the scene a bit before the national craze of celebrity chefs, though you'll hear that Emerald did use one of her recipes on his show. Also, Lina did a weekly cooking feature on our local NBC affiliate for 30 years. We have heard about how much we can learn about life's essential lessons in the restaurant kitchen from the recent recollections of Anthony Bourdain's writings. Lina's stories echo many of those ideas and tell us more about enlisting those skills in a creative life. As for my creative interests, this podcast is a significant one. Being an artist is another passion, though I do tend to get so busy that I put my art on the back burner. Yes, that's a bit of a pun on today's show theme. Don't groan too loudly. To move art forward in my life, I enroll in classes. Okay, I just like learning, too. Art technique requires a lot of focus and time, and I can put off the laundry to another day when I know I have an assignment due. I love the process of relief printing. I did take a survey class on the subject of art printing in the past and began an intaglio printing class. Then I needed to drop because of too much on my plate. All right, enough with the puns already. I've enrolled in a summer class Monday through Thursday for 6 weeks. It's a bit intense, but so far, so good. I learned to cut the wrong way in my survey class, which means my neck is spared with this technique, and it works okay. On the big wood pieces, I use a Dremel, though there is a point where the vibrations in my hands tell me, stop! I posted some photos of what I'm currently working on in the A Creative Approach podcast Facebook group page and the Patreon tab on the website. We're getting hints of our typical sweltering Sacramento summer, though it's been quite comfortable most days. I'm looking forward to the 4th of July, which is my personal kickoff to summer. We attend our local parade, which is a far cry from most community celebrations, but it's gradually improving each year. I deck out my sun-shaded portable chair with flags, and I dress in red, white, and blue for the occasion. The night before, the private golf club next to us has a fireworks display that's quite spectacular. Many folks drive to our street and get out to watch the show. We haul out the lawn chairs, beverages and snacks, and an audio device to play patriotic music and settle down in the front yard for the event. I'll need to remember to promote the fun and convenience of this activity if we ever decide to sell the house. And maybe this year we should have a barbecue beforehand. I hope you're planning for summer celebrations ahead with creative ideas to make the occasions special to you. Maybe it's time to get the grill ready for some al fresco meals. Speaking of food, please join me as I talk to Lina Fat about the creative life of a chef. Welcome to A Creative Approach podcast. Today my guest is Lina Fat. And Lina is a chef, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her very interesting life. Hi, Lina.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. I think, you actually are a chef and have run a number of restaurants. Would I call you sort of semi-retired now?
Oh, yes, I'm semi-retired. I'd like to retire, but not quite yet. I'm still looking for my replacement.
And you want to tell us a little bit about your restaurants and what it is you do have done?
Yeah, throughout the years, I've been in the restaurant business now for 40-something years. And before that, I was a pharmacist and working in the field of pharmacy. So we started out with one restaurant. Now we have 4 restaurants and a catering right now.
Yeah, 4 restaurants and catering. And the
restaurants are, of course, Chinese and Chinese American restaurants, I guess, or would you just say Chinese American food?
Well, I wouldn't say that different restaurants have different food. It
Yes,
started
because they're
out with
different, yeah.
Frank Fat's, which was a restaurant started by my father-in-law in 1939. That kind of in the old days is kind of like American Chinese. So they have been doing that for so many years, and we're very fortunate. Like about 3 or 4 years ago, he got the James Beard Award in the classic, restaurant category, which is very appreciative. As a matter of fact, when they call James Beard, they have a representative calling my brother-in-law, Jerry, who is the president of the corporation, and told him that, we're being nominated.
Yeah.
And Jerry thought it was a crank call.
Oh, no.
Or prank call or whatever. So he didn't call back.
Oh, no.
And then the lady called again, I guess the second time. And finally, he thought, well, maybe I better call back and see what's going on. And we find out it was true because we never dreamed that we would be in that category.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
quite
very appreciative. We did go to New York and accept the award, and it was a great experience.
Oh, yeah. What a wonderful honor. That's great. And then you said different cuisine. So that's the Frank Fat's restaurant, and an award-winning restaurant at that. And it's very good. I've eaten there.
That's American Chinese.
American Chinese.
The way they started out in 1939, and my father-in-law was a great storyteller, and he was saying that, he was working and saved a lot of money. And finally, he decided to open a restaurant, and that was an old Italian restaurant for sale. So he decided to buy it, and everybody told him, Frank, don't do that. Even the dogs don't go there.
Oh, no.
But, Frank was he just find it challenging, and he really wanted to open one. He did open, and he was fortunate, and he had a lot of clientele when he was working for another restaurant before, and so they all came, and that's the success story that he built it up, and because so close to the capital, he got a lot of people from lobbyists and legislators to go over there, and then a lot of them one day said that, hey Frank, I like Chinese food, but I can eat Chinese food every day, because in those days they stay in Sacramento longer time during the week. And so Frank added the New York steak, Frank style, and at that time added some the brandy fried chicken, and also added, at that time the veal cutlet was very good. People really liked that too. So later on, when they were saying, Frank, we like the food, but we like to have a little bit of dessert, and we don't like the Chinese dessert. So can you do something? So Frank asked the chef, and the chef has some training in American cooking. So he started making the banana cream pie.
Oh, yeah.
But he did, in those days, he did use, lard and all that. So when I came into the picture and helping with the food director, so I decided to change it and gave them the French pastry crust recipe in 1984 when they did the major remodeling at that time. And it was ever since then, everybody loved it, and the custard was made since probably 1940 or somewhere around there. It's not been changed. It's the same.
So the Lina Fat version of the famous banana cream pie.
This is actually very refreshing, and it's not too sweet.
Right.
So the chef did a very good job in those days.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you added your own twist and made it a little bit healthier.
Yes, because when I was working as a pharmacist, I enjoy after so many years in the pharmacy school, but I tried different type of pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, convalescent hospital, retail, and all that. And I later on find it very disappointing, because I was, I think either the third or the fourth year here at UC Med Center in San Francisco that I got the Doctor of Pharmacy degree. And a lot of physicians still, at that time, did not trust the pharmacists very much. And they would rather talk to the sales rep, So, but anyway, so I didn't get any phone calls or anything to ask my opinion.
Right.
About
that's changed a lot in pharmacy.
Oh, changed
totally.
A lot right now.
For the better, obviously.
Oh, much better. I understand that now the third-year pharmacy student and third-year medical student, they to all the patients and walk around, and the medical student would diagnose, the pharmacy would recommend the prescription. That's very good because this is specialty. I mean, there's so many things the physician have to think about in diagnosis. They can't possibly know everything, and the drugs now are getting more and more complicated, more and more new ones. So I think that it now is completely different. But I'm the
But back then you felt your expertise was not being challenged and used.
I graduated in 1964. That's a long time ago. So I was a little disappointed, and then I had my third child, and I decided to stay home and do a little part-time work. Then I decided to cook, and I found out I love cooking. It's a creativity in cooking that I didn't have, even though drug formula and recipe is about the same. But the cooking part is really creative, not only in the flavor, taste, but also presentation. It's a complete new world, and I really like it.
And then you were fortunate enough to have a restaurateur in the family, so you could, but you started off being just a home chef, right?
Yes, and it was, I always say to my children, and I said, don't be too anxious. Things will come to you. And it's just kind of, life is kind of like, I wouldn't say that 100% plan, but it's just something that, you're destined to do certain things. Don't ignore it and don't try to change it and let it run, the course. And what happened was, my father-in-law and my older brother-in-law, they were managing Frank Fat at that time, and my father-in-law got a piece of property in Sacramento, and he always wanted to open a restaurant to commemorate the Chinese immigrants.
Right.
He already had the name China Camp picked. And so, but they couldn't decide on what menu they want to put in because Frank Fat is too close, to old Sacramento. Then the old city in development at that time, department in old Sacramento said, well, Frank, if you're not going to develop it, you can sell your property back to us, So Frank was going to do that, and at that time, I being a daughter-in-law in those days, I mean, my father-in-law's like another level, I mean, you really respect them.
Of course.
You don't say too much,
No.
Just listen, right?
And maybe it wasn't just in your Asian culture either. It was kind of just basically how things were.
Well, in Asian culture especially, it's always male-oriented. So I just didn't really get that close to talking and my opinion and all that. But then I thought about this property. I said, the concept is so good because, we're all immigrants, except my husband who was born here. So I said, this is a good thing to commemorate the immigrants, to U.S. And believe it or not, the gold rush history, and the train history, they were more studied, a lot more outside of the United States. They really, really, thought that this is a great story to tell, and everybody in the world knew about it.
Right.
And including me, I came from Hong Kong. I went to finish my high school in Hong Kong, and I still remember that's the history of U.S. was the gold rush days.
Oh, in Canada too, we learned that. Yes, that's a significant part.
Exactly. So I said, well, they shouldn't be selling back the place. They should do something like that. So I then somehow, in the middle of the night, I thought about all the items that we entertain a lot. So all the items we entertain, our friends, not just me, but my sister-in-law, and they all, most of the Fat family, very good cooks. My mother-in-law especially. So, I said, these are immigrants. This is what they do. Why not use the best one that we have? And everybody asking a recipe like that, we should put it in there. Because the immigrants, they brought their spices, right? They come here and they use whatever locally grown or raised,
right.
To cook the Asian style. So that's immigrant food. So I said, maybe you shouldn't be selling it off. Let's try this way. But of course, my husband Ken, I woke him up in the middle of the night and said, oh, go back to bed, So I'm the type that I don't see an idea, I don't let it go that often. So the next day I said, well, I should talk to my sister-in-law, my older sister-in-law, because she was the only one at that time, a woman,
right.
in Austin, worked in the restaurant as a bookkeeper for Frank&nbsp. So I told her the idea and she liked it. And so she told her husband and my father-in-law. And so, so decided not to sell it. And then later on, we looked for architect. And then just happened, my brother-in-law, Tom, was thinking about opening a restaurant in Los Angeles. He was a tax attorney, and he wanted to open there. And he said, why you have this opportunity? Why do you want to do it in Los Angeles? So we somehow talked him into coming back. And so he had the project, and we got an architect. And then they said, okay, you take care of the food. That's how I started to start writing, the menu, recipes, and testing. That's the worst part because, like I said, the whole Fat family, they are very good cooks and they all have good taste. And boy, do I have to really make it, some of them I have to make it several times just to make sure the whole family agreed
that was the right recipe.
So that's why, there was, when we opened China Camp, it was a big success. Before we opened, right before we opened, then Frank, hired all the cooks. And then my brother-in-law, Wing, at that time, assigned jobs to different family members.
Right.
When he came to me, he said, okay, you're in charge of the kitchen. I said, gee, I have never worked in a restaurant before. I don't know, but, I'm the type that I love challenges. And good thing that, like I said, things happen to you for some reason. Being as a pharmacist, I know all the sanitation, I know formulas, and and one summer I worked for a big pharmaceutical company and work in the inventory. So I know all about the inventory, the storage and all that. So it was not too bad. The only thing that I really have to concentrate on was the recipe, and I got that down. Then the next thing is, how to motivate the kitchen. But that was another story because my father-in-law hired all the cooks, and they were all, at least 40. So they were like my big brother. I was only in the early 30s. My big brother or my father.
Right.
And hired by Frank. Okay. So I said, how do I get them to do the way that I want to do? Because coming from Hong Kong is very creative as far as food is concerned. And already at that time it's all fresh. Things are light and they don't have all those, in the old days in here they are from the farmers and all that to come over here. So the tendency is they do a lot of gravies and all that. But in Hong Kong, before I left, they already do those really fresh things and the sauce just nap, the meat and vegetable. They don't, over sauce unless they stew or something. Yeah. So, I said, I need to do that to make sure they understand what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So what I did was I do it like, like I did like in the pharmacy, like that. So I make a kind of like a cookbook for them in a little 5x7 binder. And each page is, with the recipe and the job description on each station and the picture of the food in there. And then also talk about the before the shift duties and during the shift and after the shift. So when the first day they do the orientation with all the cooks and all like that, so I hand out each one because I know which one is in which station and hand out this little thing. And I even had someone to help me to translate into Chinese. Because at that time they were all Chinese cooks. My father-in-law hired. So I give it to them, each one like that. Even though I know how to speak Cantonese, coming from Hong Kong. But some of these technical things, in kitchen, I don't know because I never learned that in Hong Kong. So I have people to help me to translate a little bit if I needed to. But when I gave it to him, they look at me like I came from
Mars.
Another planet. They have never seen anything like that. So I said, okay. I said, I don't mind as long as they listen to me and do that, So we were very successful when we opened. And then one of the cooks, I remember the story, I guess after so many years, I have lots of stories. And one of the cooks, kept on doing the same thing, like, the old Chinese way of doing gravies and all that, too heavy sauce.
Too heavy, yeah.
And I didn't like it. And I said, but I thought about it. I said, well, I don't want to fire him because he's hired by father-in-law, and it would be not a very good,
public relations.
Exactly, for my father-in-law. So, but then I cannot have him continue to do that because he would be, I always told my staff later on, I said, you have a bad apple, you'll get the whole barrel rotten. You gotta have to do something about it to get rid of these bad apples. So I try to, try to see if I can rehabilitate him, right? But I did several times, he won't listen. So one day, at that time, they come in from the front and have to go through the bar to go to the kitchen and go to the clock in, right? So I was standing right in the bar area, and when it's time for him to come in, so I say, oh, hello, so I say, I really like to have you work in the kitchen. I like you. I said, do you like working in here? And he said, yes. I said, okay, that's good. I said, if you like working here, here's what I like for you to do. This is what you're in charge of. I like the sauce to be light, just nap the vegetables and meat, not heavy, no heavy sauces and to cover up all these things. Can you do that for me? He kind of, I said, okay, if you can do it for me, fine. That's great. Come on in, clock in. I said, if you don't think that you can do that for me, there's the door right now. You can go, and you don't have to stay. And so he was kind of shocked to see me say that. So he came in and clocked in. He said, I will clock in. And so he did follow my instruction for several months. And then later on, I guess it's a habit. Sometimes, people just can't get rid of a habit. So then later on, I guess he found out that he can't do the way that I like for him to do. So he quit instead. So that was a good thing. He quit.
He quit.
So that's better off for everybody.
Right.
So
and then you could keep your menu the way you wanted it to be, and which was very successful.
And all the other cooks appreciate too because they all know. They said, why is it this person do it this way and didn't get reprimanded, and why do I have to do it that way? Understand? So that was a good experience for me. So anyway.
So you kind of got your courage up and
and then
took charge.
And then another thing too is another story too, because like I said, I never worked in a restaurant before, and so they have purveyors. I have a main one, that I buy things from, and but I was not sure whether I did it correctly or not because I never worked with a chef. I never went to the restaurant, so I have a ordering book, in and out first and all that. And all this, to me, is simple because it's just like when I was working for a pharmaceutical company. But I didn't know whether that was the right thing to do in a restaurant, right? So one of purveyor, a big one, I get to know, and so I asked him, I said, can you tell me something? You see my book and ordering like that. Can you tell me, am I in par with the other chefs? Am I doing the right thing? What am I doing? You tell me. He just laughed. He said, you know what? That was in 1974 at that time. And he said, you're doing more than a lot of the other chefs. It's no detail. I said, oh, really? So then I was happy that at least I did something right.
Yeah.
So then,
and even better, you were probably more efficient.
Well, yeah, because it's like now, with your podcast like this is so new that I don't know anything about it. So this is something that, for new.
Yes.
In the old days, that people are not used to it. They just write it down and order, right?
Yeah.
So I was happy that I'm doing something new and more efficient that way. Then 2 years later, my brother-in-law decided to open Fat City. He purchased the land, next door to Chinatown and remodel it. So he wanted to do it like Henry's Africa in San Francisco, a fern bar with a bar menu and all that. And I thought that was very good because we went to San Francisco and check out all the restaurants like that. And I thought that would be a really neat thing that was kind of new, in Sacramento because there's nothing like that.
The San Francisco trend, and you were going to bring it here.
Well, we thought that way, but so I did the first menu was very small, just like the Union Cafe in San Francisco, the bar menu, like hamburgers and pasta and a couple of entree, but mainly it's a small menu, like the bar menu, like that.
Bar menu, yeah.
And then we have a bar that we got it from Leadville, Colorado.
Oh, yes. So beautiful.
Yeah, that's the
gorgeous woods.
That's the bar that actually Molly Brown worked in before she married the Browns. When she came out from the mountain, Molly Brown. The unsinkable Molly Brown.
Unsinkable Molly Brown. Yeah. So that was her bar.
Not her bar, but
the one she performed at. Yeah.
She didn't perform at that time. She was just a country girl from the mountain, came down to the city looking for a job, wanted to improve herself, and I guess she worked there as a
bar girl?
No, hand. What do you call it? To clean the place and.
She was a housekeeper. Oh wow.
No, I don't even know if she's a housekeeper, but the clean-up lady. Because she didn't know how to. At that time.
Right.
So she was working.
Oh wow. That's interesting.
Another story was we bought that. My brother-in-law worked with a antique dealer. We bought that sight unseen. And when it came in, we saw it's all black. Yeah. It looked awful. He said, what are we doing? What did we get? And because in those days it was popular to paint the wood. But good thing my brother-in-law had a very good friend in the antique business and all that, and he loved, the antique.
Restoring things.
And he wanted to restore it. And this is another story. But, he loved to drink at that time. So, sometimes you never know whether he can do the work. And we were in the time frame, we got to have to get the place open. So my brother-in-law said, okay, if you want to do this, okay, I tell you what you can do. We're going to have a cot, a bed for you. You stay there. We take you out to lunch. We bring you to dinner and all that. And you stay here until you finish.
Oh, no.
But he did, because he loved the work. When he finished the bar, we just looked at it and said, wow, the wood was so beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's really gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Stand out.
So we were, in a way, lucky.
It's huge, but gorgeous.
Yeah, we were lucky to find a piece like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why my brother-in-law wanted to concentrate on the bar.
Sure.
And then with the bar food, because Chinatown was so busy, they thought this would, and our bar in the Chinatown at that time was very small. So this way would be kind of complement, Chinatown. Yeah. But we didn't expect that at that time the people in Sacramento did not like the idea of bar food. They were telling my brother-in-law, said, what is this? It's not dinner. it's not, what is kind of menu is that?
It's just, not enough food.
Yeah, so then I just started adding more in there. So Fast City is actually the American food.
Right.
It's no Chinese.
No, yeah.
Yes, because that would be a compliment also to Chinatown too. Chinatown is Asian.
Right.
This is, American food.
Uh-huh.
So that was, then 2 years later, we opened Chinatown and Fast City side by side, both in one building in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And that was in, 1979, somewhere around there, so 2 years later. And so then my brother-in-law and then my other brother-in-law came back from university, and my nephew came back. Then they all went to San Diego to open that, and I helped to design the kitchen for them too. This one kitchen for 2 restaurants. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was really a lot of challenge, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so, and then I had to go over there maybe, every 2 weeks, just to make sure that all the, the staff is doing all the right thing in the kitchen like that. And good thing that I still had a lot of energy. I was able to do that. Then another story came, because they have to hire someone to manage, the 2 restaurants.
Right.
I still in charge of the food, but I have kitchen manager at that time,
right,
to help me, so I just go check up and make sure everything is okay. Then I found out that somebody told me, he said, you better take a look, and see your bar, sale. So I said, okay. And I found out, I went in, because usually I just let the manager's there, so they take care of the ordering and all that. Then employee told me, and I was really appreciated. They, we're so close with employees, they would tell me things, so I looked into it, and then, yes, I found out one of the really high-cost liquor was really buying a lot. And I look at, in those days, there's no computer.
Right.
So you can really track, the sales that much,
Yeah.
But I know that, the sale was not that much, I said, why is it that we keep on buying all these things? Then later on found out that he was having parties afterwards, in the basement of Chinatown, so nobody can see them, and have parties.
Parties with expensive liquor.
So we had to let him go.
Yeah. So that was challenging.
That was a challenge. I said, but then who's going to manage? Everybody, busy in San Diego to open that.
Right.
So I said, okay, so I'll be the manager.
Oh.
I mean, like I said,
one more job.
Challenges, right?
Yes.
I said, since I already have kitchen manager to help the kitchen, and they're doing fine, and I just have to look into that and make sure they continue to do that. I have some really good help in the kitchen, and I have a cousin in charge of, oversee the line at Chinatown already. So I said, you can do it, so.
Uh-huh.
So I did that. So I did both, take care of the food and the management. But I learned a lot.
Uh-huh.
Really learned a lot, because management is a completely different thing. The kitchen, to me, was easy because I cook,
Right.
So when I am in the kitchen, it's easier for me to see everything. But management is something that is new to me, so that was a big challenge, but I enjoyed that too. After a little while, I enjoyed that and get to know the employees very well. And we started we call it a 5-minute talk with my managers, and then to not only to just remind them what's the threshold, what is technical thing, but what I enjoy the most is really talking to employees, about other things, just get to know them, like that. And I think that's very good, because when you get to know them, and it's so easy when you say something that I like for you to do this because the reason and all that, they do it. Yeah, I really enjoy that. So even though it's hard, I was working like sometimes 7 days and no day off and all that. I have 3 kids. And
yeah, children at home too.
Yeah, I had someone to come and help, cooking for the kids and to take them to all the different activities and all that. But, But it was very satisfactory by seeing things are doing well. And I especially appreciate a lot of the employees. All these years they've grown, they become one is a heart surgeon and one is some orthopedic surgeon, some with internal medicine, some are dentists, some become CPA, all different professions, and they're successful. And I thought that's really good to see that they get started in a restaurant.
It's probably a good place to get started for any kind of profession. You learn a lot. I think, one of the things they were talking about with the recent passage of Cordon was that he learned so many life skills and life lessons in the kitchen. So I guess a lot of these people learned a lot of life skills that they translated into their professions later.
And there's something that I did not know at that time until much later in one of the gatherings, and my oldest son was telling his experience in a restaurant, because in those days the kids loved to work. They want to get a little spending money. And my philosophy is I did not give them allowances into my kids. I said all the things that in the house everybody work is part of the group, the team that you help each other. But if you want something, extra, I provide you with food, with clothing, go to college, like that. But if you want extra money to spend for yourself, you have to earn it. So you either earn it by working, something in the house that's not normal, then you get paid for it. But otherwise, like washing dishes and cleaning up after dinner, all that, it's part of the job. It's part of family job.
Part of family, yeah.
So then my son, he was going to UC Davis at that time. So he wanted extra money, to do things. So he worked in a restaurant. He brought a lot of his friends and all that too. And there were a lot of students work over there. Those are very, very nice. They are all so appreciative to have a job. And what I did was I started them all out as a dishwasher. Because I want them to do either one shift or two. Whatever it is, I want them to go through the experience, because I remember the story about my father-in-law. One story he said was, when he was working, when he first came, he worked as a dishwasher in one restaurant. And I guess in those days, the chefs, they were, the head. They were really big, And one time,
well, I think still are, right?
Yeah, they still are, but in those days,
they were kind of tyrants almost.
Exactly. So one day, he didn't know how to speak English when he first came,
Sure.
So he was washing dishes and that time, and the chef finished a saute pan, like that, and he just tossed it into the dishwashing area. And Frank did not know anything about that, and he caught it.
Oh, no.
So he got burned his hand and still has a scar. So he was showing the family. He said, this is a scar to show that, I had a burn. That was the experience like that. So I heard about the story. I said, okay, that's why I want everybody who wanted to work in a restaurant to go through this dishwashing. And I said, you need to know the respect, the position. Dishwashing is not the lowest job in the totem pole. Very important. And you cannot mistreat them. You have to respect them. You don't toss things over there. You have to help each other. So they all gone through, 1 or 2 days. And all my kids, and including my daughter too, have gone through the dishwashing too. My second son worked the longest, almost 2 years in the dishwashing. Kevin,
Oh, wow.
So he's the COO now in the corporation. But anyway, so one day, my oldest son was telling the other people, he was some type of function. He was talking, and he said, you know what? He said, I learned, quite a bit from being a server in the restaurant. He said, because one day in his practice, he's a dentist now, he's an endodontist, and he said one day he has, all the chairs all filled, and there are people waiting outside, and he had a big formal function to go to at 7 o'clock, that he has to go. So then here came elderly gentleman was his patient and came in and have some toothache or something. And he insisted to have, JC to take care of that. And JC was saying, well, look at, I have all these people here, and it's almost 5, at that time. He said, I cannot see you, maybe tomorrow. This gentleman said, no, I want to have it seen today. And good thing that, JC always, have a lot of respect for older people. So he said, okay, if you really want to, if you don't mind waiting, I'll try to get everybody finished and I'll take care of you. So then after that, and he thought, yeah, the older gentleman said, yes, and then JC was thinking right after that, say, how am I going to do this and get it done by 6:30 so he can change to go to a function at 7. So he told the people, now I didn't know about that. He told the people, say, I use my serving experience when I was a server at the restaurant, because each person in charge of 5 tables, right?
Right.
And when it's really busy, you really have to organize to know which table, in that order of how they're eating, what is going on, and like that, in order to keep all 5 tables, happy. He said, I use that technique, to look at that. So I was looking at all the chairs, what stage they're at and all that. And I've gone in my mind and say, how do I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then continue. And he said he used that method of organization, and he got those done by 6 o'clock. Was able to see that elderly gentleman and finish before 6:30. So he said he was really appreciative of his experience, working in a restaurant. I said, oh my, because I didn't even know about that. And that was new to me.
Yeah.
That shows that there's a lot of things you can learn from working in a restaurant. The organization, you were able to deal with the customer and managers and the kitchen.
Take that experience and then translate that into another situation.
Exactly.
Talk about creativity. There's your resources of taking your life experience and applying it in a new situation. Yeah.
That's right. It's not just working in a restaurant. There's a lot of things that you learn, the public relations, the organization, and dealing with the top, bottom, all kinds of people. So, now
into this whole time, because we haven't even talked, because there's still other restaurants that you created, but you were also, didn't you write a cookbook or two at that time too?
And that was a surprise to me.
So how did you fit that all in?
Well, it was difficult, because at that time when someone came and said that they want to do, want me to do a cookbook, because he was doing a series of cookbooks from different restaurants. And I said, I don't know how to write cookbooks. They said, yeah, you can do that. But I said, okay, because I always have recipes. It's okay.
Oh, sure.
Okay. But, I started out with small recipe, right?
Right.
And then when you got in the restaurant, I made it into bigger batches because we're so busy doing that. And one thing I did not foresee about having to make a cookbook, I threw away all the
original ones. Oh no.
So now they want me to, they wanted me to do a new cookbook. So I said, oh, I have to go back and refigure out to make the recipe for 4 to 6 people.
And no computer where it was stored, of course.
No,
that was all done by hand.
It's all by typewriter and all that. And I have to retest it.
Oh, retest it, of course, to make sure it worked out.
Make sure it worked out, So that took a lot of time, and I was busy too, being at that time managing and taking care of the kitchen too. So it was tough, but that's again, I love challenges. That was fun, so I did, did that, and it was nice. I used the recipe from the two different restaurants, and then some of them also from the family recipe and all that. So that was kind of fun. To do that.
And is that how, you're kind of, I was saying before we started our interview, you were one of the celebrity chefs before we really had celebrity chefs, because you were, with your cookbook and all, I think you were appearing on the Martha Stewart show, right? And
not Martha Stewart, but
not Martha?
Channel 3 in the segment.
On
television.
television. Yeah, you weren't on any national program, but you were on a local program.
I was in a couple of them. That's another story. But anyway, at that time, it was my niece was working for Channel 3, and one day she said, "Oh, my guest chef cannot make it, this Friday. Can you do it? Because I need someone, I said, "Oh, I've never done this before." And said, "Well, I really need that someone to help." It's okay, do that. And I decided then I only have 3 minutes, so I have to practice to make sure I, do the recipe in 3 minutes. But then afterwards, I enjoy it, and I did it for over 30 years.
Yeah, a long career of television appearances.
It was fun. I enjoyed that. And I have a lot of people say, "Oh, I saw you." I said, "Oh, I hope that you enjoy it and make use of the recipe," because I try to do things that are more simple, for home, rather than complicated, like in restaurants. So that was also fun thing to do. Right?
So it just sort of fell into becoming a television chef.
Yeah, that was fun. And the other thing that I was very happy was, then I found out that, the chef from New Orleans.
Right.
He's the famous chef over there, the one that, bam.
Yes.
Now, how can at this point.
It's okay, because I
think about
the one that all the kids love to watch on television.
And I found that he was started out, in the television show at that time. And then he used one of my recipes in the show. I was very, very honored.
Yes.
Really.
Emerald Lagasse.
Exactly.
Emerald. So he used your recipe.
I was really appreciative. And of course, it becomes such a big name.
Yes.
So one time when I went to New Orleans, went to his restaurant, and he just came in. I said, "Oh, Emerald." I said, "You know that you used my recipe." "Oh, that's good." So we talked about it a little bit. He was very nice person. Yeah. So that was fun.
Yes, indeed. So there's your touch with being our local celebrity chef and your contact with others. And then you've gone on, you have a catering business, and then you have some other restaurants you've been associated with too, the dim sum.
The Asian Asian Bistro in Roseville and in Folsom.
Right.
Yes. And that one is kind of like 60%, 67% Chinese. Right. And the others are Asian.
Other Asian cultures. Yeah.
Asian cultures. That was very successful. People like it.
Beautiful restaurants. Yeah. All your restaurants are gorgeous. Yes.
At that time when we opened Roseville, we wanted to do a little bit different, because everybody thought that, we're doing the same thing like P.F. Chang, So we said we want to do different. So that's why we have the dim sum ball. But at that time we didn't have, we're still a family-owned business.
Yeah.
We are not that sophisticated, and so we didn't go and do marketing. Say what dim sum is. People think of dim sum as a Chinese dim sum.
Yes.
That you push cart and all that.
Push the cart.
But our version of what we think about dim sum is in translation little hots. It's like little small plates.
Right.
And so I said, well, this is an Asian restaurant. And I said, we can do small plates. It can't be anything. It's just like appetizers. But we call it dim sum to make a difference. And then outside we have stations, one for hot dim sum, one for cold dim sum. But we have cold dim sum, we have sushi and, different salads, all that. Hot dim sum, we have different things. Other than, the Chinese, traditional dim sum.
Right.
So when we open, we should, market ourselves and let people know what it is. But we just kind of took it for granted that, people know. And so a lot of people were disappointed in the beginning. They were saying, what is dim sum? You don't have any cod. You don't have any Chinese, har gow, stim mayo, and all these traditional things.
Right.
So they don't understand, but throughout the years now, they know now that we do have different type of small plates. And of course now it's very popular now.
Oh yeah, small plates. Well, yeah, like the Spanish tapas restaurants, it's kind of an Asian version of that, right?
Actually, we started out with the idea because I was visiting Spain and all that. Tapas idea. And so tapas is like appetizer, like Chinese dim sum, right?
Right.
Spanish tapas,
Well, there's where the creativity comes in, is just translating that into your experience.
Yes, and it's so fun just to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And that can stimulate your mind and see what you can do with what you're doing too, to bring it more interesting and make it more interesting like that. That's the creative part that I really enjoy. And that's why I say, even though, I was working 7 days, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day, but I always told the young people, I said, restaurant business is not for the faint of heart. No. You have to like it. You need to enjoy it. And, then you're going to be all right.
Right.
But you don't think you can spend the time, you don't think you can, spend the effort into, invent different things and creative, then it's not for you.
Yeah, you have to love food and love people, right?
Love people, right. And that's what I like. It's completely different from pharmacy. Right?
Yes.
I get to talk to people.
Yeah.
So it's good that I try to get my children to be there. Only Kevin is in the food business. And the others, my daughter is a dentist too, and my oldest son, of course, a dentist. My husband's dentist.
Yeah, so they followed Dad into dentistry, and your earlier, more science-oriented career being a pharmacist.
Yes,
but you had one who turned out to be interested in food. So, and I think they all love to eat.
Yeah, my daughter-in-law, the oldest daughter-in-law, she's a dentist too. She worked with my husband. Actually, she works more than my husband. She works 3 days with my husband.
Yeah, he's also semi-retired too.
Kind of semi-retired. And he played tennis 5 days a week, so that's good. Keep him busy. And anyway, so my oldest daughter-in-law now, she's a very good cook now.
Oh, she's a good cook.
She loves to cook. That's good.
Well, probably hard to be in your family and not like to cook.
Well, they have to like food first.
Yeah,
One thing true. I always say that, you don't cook because you just want to cook, but you have to acquire the taste and like it first. And that's why I can't figure out why some of the cooks, they never taste what they're cooking. You have to do that.
You have to.
Yeah. And 2 months ago, we were in Chicago for the National Restaurant Show.
Yeah.
And, they have lectures and all that. And Michael Mina, the chef, was there to give a lecture. And I remember I really agree with him. He said that, main thing is, you need to have a balance in taste, not just in look, but also balance in taste. And I completely agree. You need to be creative, but not for creative sake. You need to be creative, but make sure the basic is still there. And the spices and all that need to be balanced. You just don't put something in there just because it's different. Right. But you still have to taste it to make sure it tastes good. And that's why the palate comes in very handy. And I always suggest if they want to be a chef or something like that, well, a lot of people do. They go to taste food, that cooked by other chefs and see the difference. And then the cooks, I try to encourage them, you have to taste what you're cooking. So you know whether it's good or not.
Of course.
Yeah. So
see how that works. Yeah.
It's not just an art, but it's also the palate that you develop. And you won't develop it if you don't try other people's food to see what's going on, right?
Yeah, I can't just taste your own.
Yeah, so I love to go to try different restaurants. So that's why my semi-retired title right now is Research and Development Culinary Art. I mean, I don't care the title, but that's what I like the best. Semi-retired is good, so I go on research and development and see what's going on. And it's kind of fun. And then to see a lot of people doing different things and like that, and you can tell which one really has the right idea. It's kind of fun.
So what do you see any kind of new trends or something that seems to be, you think's going in the right direction here?
Well, because of the high in labor costs.
Yeah.
And not just in labor, but it's across the board.
Right.
It's not just a restaurant. All the goods that come in, they all raise the price. So we have to raise too, and I didn't like that, but that's what you do. Used to be my father-in-law's time, they make about, net about 10%, 15%, which is should be normal in the business. You put in so much effort and there's so much investment, right?
Right.
But now the restaurant business, people don't understand. They see the outside is nice, you talk to different people, you have all these people coming in doing like that. Nowadays, if you can make, 5 or 6%, you're doing very well, which is, completely different. So, it's just it's not just a labor, but also you have to think about the other. You buy the goods like that, they all, getting higher.
Right.
It's just kind of different level. So it's not that easy,
Right.
Yeah.
It is harder. And then, of course, if you want to source like fresh ingredients and local and present that kind of food, that can be challenging.
What we used to do all the time,
Of course. Like you said, that's what you were gearing for.
Exactly. But nowadays, especially when you're busy, you can go to different farmers to buy this stuff. So we rely on people to deliver, and a lot of them they don't. So that's why I love those small farmers markets around. And it's very good. And I hope that in the future there will be a good permanent one. That you can get the little farmers to come and bring the goods, and all that, so they can all in one place all year round, so they can just go there and one place and get it all the time, instead of now you have some on Wednesday, some on Thursday.
Different parts of town, different days.
So I think eventually will, because, Sacramento, I find this is really known for our farming business around this area.
Yeah, well, we produce so much food for the world in the Central Valley of California.
We send so much, we sell so much to all over the world. And I just found out not too long ago that we're the first ones to export caviar because we have sturgeon.
We have the sturgeon, yes,
exactly.
The sturgeon farms.
And I didn't even know that until not too long ago. So we have really great resources in not just vegetables and like that. We have, lamb, we have beef, we have all these different companies doing that. And long time ago, it was before getting, now getting healthy. People like healthy food and much better now. And I remember that they used to have an ostrich farm up in the foothills.
Oh, yes.
And we used to do the ostrich, and ostrich burger at Fat City.
Right, I remember
that.
that.
Was so fun, yes. And because it's healthy.
Very healthy,
It's very good for you, too. So it's just how to, get the things easier.
Right.
But
that's a challenge.
It's a little challenge. And unless that used to be, I would sometimes go to their place and buy some of the things.
Right.
But if you have a busy place and they have enough.
Running several restaurants, plus you have a catering business too.
Yeah, you don't have time to do something like that. You really have to rely on delivery.
Right.
That's the other thing. But eventually we will have one.
Yeah.
Permanent farmers market.
wonderful stories. I've enjoyed talking to you so much, and the story of how you got into all of these things and developed your creativity. Are your cookbooks still available?
Well, I heard that they get it from Amazon, but
It's on
I don't know
Amazon.
because it was supposed to stop printing for a long time.
Yeah.
But some people still say they got it, so I said,
Well,
okay.
we'll have to look that and put it in
Yeah.
the show notes if we find how you can access Lina Fat's cookbooks. And I wonder if those old programs are on some kind of archive too. That'd be interesting.
I have quite a few people who said, "Oh, I use your cookbook all the time," which is good because I don't like to write books that people just look at it,
Yeah,
use
right.
it.
You want to have it
And at that time, I tried to make it simple.
I should look for that. I've only been cooking for a year and a half, as old as I am.
You enjoy it now?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It took a while.
Because you're a people person too.
Yeah.
And once you start cooking, you get hooked into that because it's really creative. And also that's the time that I feel like that's time that you can relax.
Yeah.
You do your cooking, you just,
I don't know if I'm relaxed yet, but I think, I've learned by doing the prepared menus because I the food services, you've heard of Blue Apron and things like that. I use Sunbasket and I've learned cooking, but, I found sometimes now I know enough about it that I can go and look in the fridge and say, oh, I think I can put something together. Exactly. And I don't think I could have done that before. I don't even think I was interested in it before, but I decided I had to start eating healthier and it's made a big difference. It's a lot of fun.
That's how I first started. Actually was when after we got married, we were married in San Francisco. We were still students. And when my husband was in dental school, I was in pharmacy school. And then shortly after we were married, we got invited to come, to Sacramento to have a family dinner. And they said, my sister-in-law, or the sister-in-law said, well, since you come from San Francisco in those days, it took about 3 hours to come up. There wasn't any high freeway. There was highway, And then anyway, so they said, why don't you bring a dessert? So in here, me, I wanted to impress them. And I said, oh, I'm going to make one. I didn't know where to go and buy a good one. I mean, dessert should be very easy, right?
Right.
So, but then I wanted to cook my own. I wanted to do my own. And so I bought the first cookbook I have, which was a good one, the New York Times cookbook. It was really good.
Right.
And I looked through that and said, oh, this recipe seemed to be very simple. It's flourless chocolate cake. And I love chocolate. And it's flourless. That means it should be very easy. So, and besides, I was a pharmacy student. I said, I can go through this like a formula. So I looked at it and I followed everything, right? Except when they said that, well, you beat the egg white until it's stiff.
Yeah.
And I said, well, now, what do you mean by stiff? How stiff is stiff? I never did that before, right? So I just did it. And then one thing, the recipe did not say that you do not open the oven until it's done. So I put in, we were students and we had an old apartment. So the oven was an old oven, And so I put it in there, got everything done. I make my chocolate sauce and all that too, and put it in there. And then Ken would hurry me, we better go because we're late, because it took so much longer in those days to drive up there. So I did the worst thing ever. And I didn't know that. I opened up and the cereal is ready.
And it collapsed.
It's rice. No, it rises high up. I said, oh, that means it's done. I didn't know how to test it out. So, and then Ken was hurrying me too. I said, okay, let's go, So take it out and put in the car, and drive. Before even halfway or quarter way, I noticed the cake just kind of go flat. I said, uh-oh. I don't know if it's good or not. I said, well, I can't do anything. And I didn't know where to go to buy a dessert anyway.
Sure.
So we went over there and after dinner, so everybody sat there and so I served the dessert, I have the sauce ready and all that. Nobody said a word. So I said, I don't know what happened. Then my little niece, who, if later on when she grew up and worked in Channel 3, they asked me to demonstrate that. She was only like, what, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, I don't know, maybe 8. And she said, Auntie Lina, your cake tastes very good, but it's surely hot. I was so embarrassed. That was the first time. Yeah. And she said they liked my chocolate sauce and all that, but the cake got flat and it got really hot.
Right.
And I was so embarrassed. I said, okay, now there's another challenge for me. So I'm going to learn how to cook until I'm the best in the family. I'm going to do that.
And you did.
And so I studied, then when I started cooking, so I studied cookbooks like I was going to university. And I went to Cordon Bleu school to learn. Also, then after I opened China Camp already, and also changed into California Fat, of course, Fat City too. And then China Camp became California Fat. And while they were remodeling, I said, I want to find out where I stand with the modern, cooking school. Because at that time, CIA, Culinary Institute of America, was very, very prestigious. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I want to go there and see, what they do and compare what I learned and see where I stand.
Yeah.
So I did. I went to CIA in Hyde Park, New York. And I took the continuing education class. And then after the class, I would go to the library and look at at that time they have, not like now, have such good videotape. They did have some videotape, so I studied what the chefs are saying and what they're doing like that. And afterwards, I said, that's not too bad. I'm doing just about, most of the things that doing right, except that I can learn more, in the culinary part of it. So I enjoyed that very much. And then later on, right before we final remodel, the big remodeling for Frank Fat, then I went with my father-in-law, brother-in-law to Hong Kong with the chef too. And so I wanted to go into the kitchen to see it. But in those days, they didn't allow women in there because all the chefs, all the cooks, they were men.
They were men.
And also in Asian country, very hot, and sometimes they don't wear the shirt, so they don't want any women around. So I ended up hiring one of the top chefs to do a private lesson, and which was much better because I didn't have that much time. It's only 2 weeks, every day, and we'd go there to learn. It was a very good learning experience. Through that, I enjoyed it very much, and that's how I, after I started, the restaurant, I went back there and then revisit, the technique and all that. That was very helpful. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, well, you definitely apply a lot of determination to be the best. No wonder there's a James Beard Award for the restaurant. I think that shows where you've been at with that. But I was wondering about, as we were finishing up talking about your story, we usually share a few words about creativity in general, not just in being a chef. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on creativity you wanted to share with the audience.
Oh, well, creativity to me, I feel there's something that you want to do that's a little different. I always say creativity is really good, but not to do it just to create. Like I said, remember the food, that you don't want to just put this spice there, that spice there, just because it's different, the creative. No, you have to have a base to make sure that it's, and like Michael Mina said, balance. The flavor needs to be balanced. And, there's a good reason for it, not just think that, you want to be creative and want to make a name and try to do something different like that. It doesn't work that way. At the end, it's not, people won't accept it. And I think that if you do the right way and create, but, a good change with a balanced taste, I'm just talking about food.
But it applies to other things too, is kind of understand the basics of whatever it is take some lessons, learn something, know the basics before you're going to experiment and do things. I mean, of course, Picasso could draw and paint classically before he started experimenting and creating the work that we know him by.
Exactly. That's why I say this apply only to food that I know. But I can see, in art form, Picasso and all the other people, they do things that are so different, that people accept it. I don't, it's a little bit different.
But they had the basics before.
That's true. They do have.
Before they started the experimental things, they understood the basic principles. And
I suppose the color and all that has to be compromised. I mean, what do you call it? Complementary to everything, I suppose.
Yeah, to understand the basics, and then you can go off and your creativity can come out of understanding how to do it well.
Yes. And I admire these people. They are not only in art form, but in movies and some of those creativity. They're so fantastic. How do they think about that? It's wonderful to see.
Right. But usually very highly trained, and then they pull something out of a life experience or some basic innate talent and create something wonderful for us. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you, and thanks so much for agreeing to do this interview, Lina.
You're welcome. I enjoy talking to you too. I just have so many stories to tell, and I enjoy that. And like I said, and even though I worked very hard until, and now I'm semi-retired because my unit is 2011, but I'm still doing fine. And so, and I enjoy that. I still excite me to see something that can create something. It's still the excitement. I enjoyed it very much. And thank you for asking me.
Oh, thanks again. I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening. I love all of Lina's stories. Her ability to accept a challenge and work, learn, and strive to achieve the best is a wonderful lesson in how to be a creative force. Show notes from today's episode of A Creative Approach podcast, where you can learn more about Lina and a link to her cookbook, are available on the webpage www.acreativeapproachpodcast.com. Please join our Creative Approach Facebook page. Your questions and feedback on the show are welcome on a Creative Approach Facebook group page, so do join there as well. Just a reminder to become a subscriber to a Creative Approach podcast on your favorite podcast platform if you've not already done so. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other platforms. If you'd like to support the show with even $1 a month, your generosity will be most welcome. You can do that by going to the Patreon tab on the website. Please join me at A Creative Approach podcast in future conversations where I hope you will find inspiration to make things, tell your story, and explore a creative approach to life.